Hi, I'm James Hewitt, accredited exercise physiologist with iFitness Exercise Physiology on the Central Coast in New South Wales. Thanks for joining us through this Exercise 101 video series. Today I'm going to be talking about flexibility training. Let's get into it. Simply put, flexibility is the range of movement around a joint. For example, if I can touch my toes, it means I have sufficient range of movement or flexibility around my hip joint. If I can reach up and grab something out of a high cupboard, I've got sufficient flexibility or range of movement around my shoulder joint. There are three main ways that I'm going to talk about to improve your flexibility. The most common one that you're probably thinking about is stretching. The couple that you may not be as familiar with is strengthening your muscles in their lengthened range and myofascial release. When it comes to improving flexibility, the thing people think about the most, or probably the fastest, is stretching. But there's several different types of stretching. I'm going to talk about a couple, the first of which is static stretching. Static stretching is the thing that your brain will instantly jump to when you think of stretching. It's the stretches that are performed in one spot, either sitting or standing, where you hold the stretch for a period of time. Static stretching has been part of just about every school and club sport warm-up for decades. It's believed to have reduced injury risk and reduced muscle soreness after exercise. But there is a very large body of evidence and research that suggests that static stretching is not good for either of these things. It doesn't seem to significantly reduce injury risk, nor does it significantly reduce post-exercise muscle soreness. Despite being not an ideal way to warm up before activity, static stretching can be helpful for relieving pain and stiffness, as well as increasing range of movement and relieving stress. So to properly perform a static stretch, it should be gentle. I know I see all the time people performing stretches where they stretch into pain and they're sort of bouncing into it, and you can see this grimaced look on their face. Static stretching should be really relaxing and gentle. It is better done, as I've said, when your muscles are warm. So it's often better done after exercise, but there is times when you can do it before. You should hold the stretch for at least 30 seconds. This gives the muscle time to relax into the stretch and actually allow the muscle to stretch. Use your breathing to help. This can be a really helpful tool to help relax your body. As you take a big deep breath out, you stimulate what's called your parasympathetic nervous system or your relaxation nervous system. And this again helps muscles relax so that they can effectively stretch. Don't bounce when you stretch. Again, this used to be a thing that was done quite a while ago where people would go into stretches and bounce down into it. This can be really damaging and is not ideal to do. Lastly, you can use things like straps or bands or towels to help with this, depending on the type of stretch that you're doing. The next type of stretching that I want to talk about is dynamic stretching. And dynamic stretching involves moving through a range of movement in a controlled way, generally starting slow and building up. This can be really useful as a warm-up for sporting clubs because you can start by replicating movements that will be shortly performed as part of the actual sporting activity. One of the examples that you'll often see with this is football players swinging their legs back and forward before they come onto the field as a substitute or before the game. So this is a good example of dynamic stretching. The third and last type of stretching that I want to talk about is called PNF stretching, or proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. So this is a type of stretching that involves alternating patterns of stretching, contraction, and relaxation. This often can involve a partner, but is certainly possible to do on your own. There are several different types of techniques when performing PNF stretching. I won't go into all of them because there's quite a few, but the one I'm going to talk about is a common one, and that involves bringing a muscle into a stretch. So let's take a hamstring for example. So bringing it into a slight stretch. You then hold that stretch for 20 to 30 seconds. At the end of that period, what you do is you create a contraction in that muscle, either by pushing against a partner or a wall or a towel for a period of 6 to 10 seconds. at about a 20 to 50% effort. So the idea is the contraction doesn't change the length of the muscle. After that, there's a period of relaxation before then repeating that process again. You can get pretty good improvements over about 3 rounds of this. So PNF stretching is considered by many people to be the most effective form of stretching. The next way to improve flexibility training is strengthening a muscle in its lengthened range. While stretching is arguably the most common way to increase joint range, I don't believe that it's the most effective. So another way to improve flexibility is by strengthening the muscle in its lengthened range. A classic example of this is an RDL or Romanian deadlift. An RDL is performed by bending forward at your hips while keeping your back straight and coming down far enough that you feel your hamstrings starting to stretch before straightening back up again. Research suggests that strengthening muscles in their lengthened range is able to increase joint range of movement quicker and with more long-term adaptations than stretching alone. So myofascial release, you may or may not have heard of before, but is involved in applying pressure to a targeted muscle with the aim to break up adhesions, increase stretch tolerance, and increase blood flow to help relax the muscle. This is often done by a therapist, either a massage therapist, physio, or exercise physiologist, and often uses their hands or other body parts like an elbow, but this can be done yourself using a foam roller or something like a tennis ball. Myofascial release can be really helpful in reducing pain and reducing tight areas and helping them to feel more relaxed. As with the other types of exercises, there are lots of benefits to flexibility training. So you can expect an improved circulation in your body. It's great for relieving stress. It's really good for improving mobility, particularly for things like getting up off the ground or bending over to tie up your shoelaces. It's good for reducing stiffness, particularly in postural muscles if you spend a lot of time sitting down at a computer. It may reduce pain such as lower back pain and may improve athletic performance. So just a few safety considerations when doing flexibility training. Always be cautious of things like injuries or breaks or torn muscles or tendons. If you have any of these things, it's really good to get some individual advice so that we can make sure that it's tailored to suit your individual needs. The other thing to keep in mind, as we mentioned before, is don't bounce when stretching. When you bounce, it can damage muscle fibers, and which can lead to small scarring in the muscle fibers, and this can ultimately reduce your flexibility. So that's all for this video on flexibility training. I hope you found it helpful. Make sure you look out for our next video in this series. I'm James Hewitt, accredited exercise physiologist with iFitness. Till next time.